Jim Hanson, why are we even having this conversation 14 years since the overthrow of the Taliban government?
Well, I think we'd have been a lot better served if, after we toppled the Taliban, we just bombed some of the Pashtun areas where the bad things were going on and dropped some leaflets that said, don't do that again. Unfortunately, we decided to stay. And in staying, I think we generated a lot of the problems. But I think you brought up a point where, is this connected to the rest of it? Afghanistan borders Iran. Iran has been meddling in that part of the country, providing weapons and doing some unhelpful things as well. So if you go from Afghanistan to Iran to Iraq to Syria, you've got one war at this point in time.
But if you look at it that way from the beginning, do you fight it in a different way rather than two separate operations?
That's probably a really good idea. And if we had looked at it as instead of separate conflicts, but the global jihad movement where you've got anybody flying the black flag is our enemy, they're banding together informally when they're not fighting each other. And I think that would have been better than trying to treat them as discrete entities and failing in both theaters as opposed to trying to treat it as a larger global problem.
Can we put a couple of bullet point goals down to say to the American people roughly what the mission is and how long it's going to take?
That would be counter to the entire concept of what we should be doing, which is looking at this as a long war. And given the fact that our enemies are not just limited, if it was just the Taliban, again, that'd be a different story. But as Professor Johnson just said, it is ISIL. It is all of the bad guys banding together. And I think the problem that President Obama made for himself was the idea that you can end wars. You can't end a war. You can end your participation or how you fight a war, but the enemy gets a vote. And in both Iraq and Afghanistan, he seemed to think that if he says the war's over, that somehow the enemy is going to go. And he did it in 2009 when he announced the surge into Afghanistan. He also announced a withdrawal date. He did the same thing again with this. He said, I'm going to put this many troops in for this time, and then I'm pulling them out at this point. That's, if you broadcast to the enemy what your plan is and what your staying power is, they'll outlast you, and that's not a strategy.